Do you love vintage clothing, but you're just not sure how to wear it because you're afraid you might look a little vintage yourself? In this video, I'm going to give you my top tips on how to wear vintage and not look as old as the pieces you're wearing. If you're new to my channel, and even if you're not, welcome. I'm Tracy Gold, and it's my absolute passion to bring you fashion tips that make you look and feel fabulous. In this video, I'm going to be giving you some general tips on how to wear vintage with style. However, if you feel the need for personalized tips, then feel free to wait until the end of the video and I'll tell you how you can get those. I love vintage clothing, and one of the reasons why I love it so much is because it's a really easy way to create your own individual style that nobody else has. And in fact, wearing vintage clothing has become really on trend in the last few years. In fact, you'll even notice that normal retailers bring out new vintage inspired clothing. You see, that's how fashionable it's become. But now, how do you wear those things and not look like you just come from a time warp? It's actually a lot easier than you may think. And here are my top tips on how to do it with style. Don't try and do an era twice. Now, I was born in the early 70s, which puts me in the 80s for my teenage years. And when I look back at photographs, I cringe at the things that I used to wear. Now, the 80s has actually come back, but I certainly am not going to try and wear the same things in the same way again, because it will look like I'm from a time warp. The teenagers, they want to wear the 80s and they think it's the latest trend. Let them do it. But for me, I'm not going there. Now, if you think I have big hair now, can you imagine? Woo! In the 80s, it was huge and I had a perm. I know, terrible. Anyway, my point is, don't try and do the same era twice in the same way. If there are things that you still love from that era, no problem, wear them, but wear them in a contemporary and modern way. And this is one of the ways I'm doing just that. And hey ladies, if you're enjoying these tips, please feel free to like this video and to share it with your friends. You may have plenty of friends out there who would love to hear how to create a look wearing vintage and modern clothing combined. Mix your vintage and your modern pieces. Going all out vintage is going to make you look vintage yourself. So rather just combine your vintage pieces that you really love with modern pieces that you've bought in the last few years. So as an example, I bought this green leather jacket at a market, and it actually does come from the 1970s. I love the 70s stuff and the 70s inspired stuff. Now, if I were to wear it with all out 70s garb, okay, well, like maybe it could work for me, but I might look like I'm going to a costume party. Rather, I'll wear it with a pair of jeans and a simple top. Or if I want to go a little bit more outrageous, I pair it with these printed trousers and then really make an all-out statement. However, there is still a mixture of modern and vintage together. Vintage doesn't have to look old. So there's vintage and then there's vintage, and sometimes you get vintage pieces that really look their age, but you also find really good vintage stores or markets that have restored items or things that have been really well cared for, so they can be vintage but not look tatty, if you know what I mean. For example, this red coat I bought in Milan at the vintage market, and it is one of my absolute favorite. Now it looks really good and it's in good condition, so I don't have to really worry about mixing it effectively. However, my green one does have a little bit more of a tatty look, but I make that work for me by combining it with very modern pieces, and it gives it that edgy look. But it's also a little bit more casual versus wearing it for, say, a workshop or a business presentation. That I don't think I'd do that. So choose your vintage pieces carefully for the outfits that you're going to wear. If your vintage piece that you love is old, then it's worth having it repaired. Go to a specialist and have them repair your piece so that it looks in really good nick when you're wearing it. Coming up soon, I'll be doing a video tutorial to help you come up with your style resolutions for 2018. So if you don't want to miss out, if you haven't already, feel free to subscribe to my channel. Better yet, click the notification button so you can be notified whenever I upload videos every Tuesday and Friday. If wearing vintage clothing or secondhand clothing gives you the ick factor, or you just haven't found your perfect vintage store, or you just don't seem to find the right pieces that you're looking for, then you can always wear vintage inspired clothing that's new. This can also look really amazing if they're carefully chosen, because often there's a vintage inspiration, but with modern styling or fabrics. For example, this dress here is one of my personal favorites. I made it years ago, so maybe it is a little on the vintage side, but it is a vintage inspired print, but the fabric is amazing. And some of the dresses from the 1970s, the fabric doesn't really appeal to me. But here is the inspired print in a modern fabric and a cut that suits my shape. So you see, sometimes you can find your perfect vintage pieces that aren't even really vintage. I hope you have enjoyed these general tips and that you're ready to put them into action. However, if you do feel the need for personalized tips, and not just to do with vintage clothing, but anything with clothing in general, then you may want to consider an online image makeover session with me. If so, I'll put the details in the description below. It's on Skype or FaceTime, so it doesn't matter where in the world you are, you can get personalized tips for yourself. Also, you may have a friend who you want to gift this to. They may need a little bit of a shot in the arm of confidence on how to dress, and that could be an amazing gift. Thanks for watching this video, ladies. I hope that you will continue to come back to my channel for tips on how to look and feel fabulous. Please feel free to let me know any video tutorial ideas that you may have, because I love getting your ideas and I use them often. Till next time. Okay. I love vintage clothing, and it really is quite, okay. I love vintage, this is just like such a freaking frustrating one. Okay. Just wait for that sound to pass. The joys of, this is a city apartment, so it's just so noisy sometimes.